Please, tell us some more about your pixel art Metroidvania roguelike genre deconstruction. Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 indie game cliches. Before we begin, we publish new videos every day, so be sure to subscribe for more great content. For this list, we'll be looking at the most notable indie game tropes and cliches and poking fun at them a little bit. We're not saying these cliches are inherently bad, or that they make the games we mention bad by extension. In fact, most of the games we'll use as examples are actually really good. Anyway, here we go.
But Stanley didn't want to go back to the office. He wanted to wander about and get even further off track.
Number 10, Synth Soundtrack.
Now you're mine.
We don't know what it is with synth and indie game developers, but they certainly seem to love it. Actually, I totally know what it is. It's because of the 80s. Many games have incorporated a synthwave sound in recent years, including Hotline Miami, Fury, and Defragmented. And while we certainly love us some badass 80s synth, it's starting to get a little bit cliche. If the game isn't incorporating synthwave, it'll undoubtedly be chiptune, that gloriously retro 8-bit sound from the 80s and 90s, which is made from synthesizers. The emergence of this type of music is probably due to both its low cost and the retro appeal of the games it appears in. So, indie games and synthesizers basically go together like peanut butter and jelly. Number 9, vague plot. Go with their synthwave chiptune soundtracks, indie developers absolutely love writing vague stories and characters, usually as a means to be artistic. These vague plot elements come in a variety of factors. Some games have vague characters with unclear motivations or relationships, like Braid. Sometimes entire stories are left open to interpretation, like in Inside and Journey. While we love a little bit of interpretation, you can almost guarantee that an indie game will leave some form of its story incomplete or intentionally unclear. Number 8, minimal instructions. It seems like indie game developers have taken a page from the From Software design book. When it comes to instructions, the fewer, the better. In many indie titles, the player is simply plopped into the game with no idea what to do, where to go, who you are, or even how to play. The devs here are simply saying, here you go, figure it out for yourself, which is both a relief and sometimes a bit of an obstacle. Some upcoming games like Fe are considering this approach, but the key is striking the right balance and communicating the game mechanics to the player in ways that feel natural, which, we gotta say, a lot of indie games do quite well.
Northwest. So there's two philosophies. We either do it now or do we do it way later?
Number 7, breaking the fourth wall. If the story isn't vague or confusing, it will break the conventions of its genre in a way that just basically screams, "Ooh, I'm so clever, I totally watch Rick and Morty." While we aren't knocking these gifted writers, you can only subvert expectations so much before the subversions themselves become cliche. Undertale is a prime example of this convention, as it plays with RPG tropes, and other games like The Stanley Parable break the fourth wall and experiment with the conventions of games as a storytelling medium. While this trope is not as common as some of the others on this list, it's beginning to crop up more and more. Now it's time to start subverting those subversions. Come to think of it, I don't know what that means.
No jokes, no games. Outside of this room, I might be more tolerant of those things, but now we're in the room.
Number 6, Pastel Colors. Indie games can be fun and innocent little experiences. It stands to reason then that they enjoy some fun colors. Many indie games love to use the pastel color scheme, with colors ranging from light green to baby blue. Games like Braid use a lot of greens, yellows, and blues, while other titles like Fez employ a wider variety of colors, but mostly in a pastel scheme. While it's certainly true that not every indie game does this, there's no denying that many of them love to use the childish, bright, innocent colors. It gives them that cute charisma they're usually known for. Number 5, Highbrow Writing. A lot of indie games feature storytelling flourishes that some would label as, pretentious, and as a result, we get a lot of games with extremely highbrow writing, leading to online discussions about what the game, quote, means. Jonathan Blow, the creator of games like Braid and The Witness, has become the poster boy for this sort of thing. However, he's totally not the only one. Games like Loved also employ this sort of thing to similar effect. We're not saying that intelligent and thought-provoking writing in games is a bad thing. These are all great games and interesting stories, but they contribute to the reputation that indie games have for taking themselves a bit too seriously. Number 4, spiritual succession.
Back and functioning normally, it would appear. What on earth has happened? It's chaos everywhere.
How to market your indie game. Say it's like X meets X and then throw around the word spiritual successor. These are the games that are clearly inspired by extremely popular old franchises and toe the line between inspiration and copying, but that are made for about a tenth of the budget. Mighty Number 9 was a failed spiritual successor to Mega Man by people who worked on the franchise. Torchlight is basically a love letter to RPGs like Diablo. And come on, there's an entire genre known as Metroidvania for crying out loud. What do you think they were inspired by? Number 3, flavors of the week.
I got shot by a guy in a tree north. Hold on. I'm okay.
Popular games come and go, and with them, you can be sure that a million clones will sprout out to leech off their popularity and goodwill. Unlike our last entry, which focused on the influence of older games that might not be so popular anymore, these games are just basically rip-offs. Once Minecraft shot to stardom, there were a million games in its wake with more or less the exact same thing. Heck, we even made a top 10 about it. Look it up right now, top 10 Minecraft clones. Anyway, while they are noticeably easier on our wallets than the real thing, indie games are supposed to be about innovation. Be on the lookout for a wave of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds copycats to start rearing their ugly heads. Oh wait, that's already happening, isn't it? Number 2, a Kickstarter campaign. With most indie games comes a Kickstarter campaign, and as we've learned throughout the years, a lot of those come to nothing and end up being massive disappointments to all involved. Kickstarter, for the few who aren't aware, is a website in which fans can give the developer money in exchange for exclusive goods and services. It's a great way for legitimate developers to earn some money and have their dream financed, but many campaigns don't go anywhere, and the developers just kind of take the money and run. Nowadays, it's all but unheard of for an independent game to come as a surprise. They all go to Kickstarter or some other form of crowdfunding.
Kickstarter is the perfect framework to do this kind of project in.
Number 1, retro graphics. We get it. Developing video games is expensive, and for independent companies, or individual developers, it just costs way too much to produce a AAA-worthy graphical experience. As a result, a large amount of indie games have retro-style graphics, usually in the style of 8 or 16-bit. Many games like Braid and Spelunky have adopted the side-scrolling gameplay and graphics of old, and titles like To the Moon and Hotline Miami employ the old-school top-down perspective to give an authentic, nostalgic experience. If you want to relive the pixelated classic games of old with a modern twist, the indie market definitely has you covered. Do you agree with our picks? Check out these other great clips from WatchMojo and subscribe for new videos every day.